Rafael Leao. And look at that, it's an easy one for Ibrahimovic. It's 2.
The Calcio Guys is a weekly podcast by Adreano DiNardo, Gianni Dellacoli, and myself, Nicholas Di Giovanni. We want to bring Calcio back to its roots in our communities and share stories from around the world about why we're passionate about the beautiful game. You can listen to us anywhere where you listen to your podcasts, including Spreaker, Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, iHeart Radio, and Mixcloud. Give us your opinion on social media at The Calcio Guys on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. The intro song is Fireworks by Jazar. Serie A and Champions League seasons in full swing for soccer in Italy. It's sweater weather here in Montreal.
Brother.
It's the best time of the year because we're just getting it all thick and fast with Gianni Dellacoli, Adreano DiNardo. I'm Nicholas Di Giovanni here on the Calcio Guys. Everything good, you guys?
Ale, 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 Milan, ale, forza lotta, vincerai, non ti lasceremo mai, ale.
I didn't realize we were gonna get to an American Idol rendition here on the Calcio Guys. I think we got a bit of everything now.
Don't worry.
Oh man, it feels fucking good, boys. How are you guys doing?
Hey, both my teams won this weekend. I'm really happy about that, and plus got some midterms done. Did decently well, hopefully. So, you know what? I'm feeling great too.
All good for me. Big win for Juventus yesterday in the Champions League. So we are gonna have Rui Dos Santos on later to talk about Milan, to talk about that derby win. But first, here on the Calcio Guys, we like to talk. Sometimes we like to talk about other things than soccer. And what I'm going to bring up now is relationships. Everybody's got relationships with friends, boyfriends, girlfriends, everything. And most people have exes. There's bad stories with exes, and there's good stories with exes, okay?
Yeah. And
this week we saw a good story and a bad story with an ex. And tying it back to soccer, we got the good story, Morata, coming back to his ex-team, scoring 4 goals in 2 games. Would have been 4 goals in 2 games if you wore a size 8 shoe instead of a size 9 shoe. Getting that outside goal for against Crotone. And then we had the other ex, Ciro Immobile, scoring against his former club, Dortmund, the team that his time there was defined as the worst signing in Dortmund history. Coming back to score against them in the Champions League. You'll hear that goal right here.
Lucas Leiva with a good foot in. What a chance! 1-0. First blood to Lazio, and inevitably it's Ciro Immobile that guns down his former side.
Which out of these 2 ex stories, which one do you guys like hearing about more?
You know what? Sorry, Ja. Go ahead.
Okay, what I was going to go with, I like hearing about Immobile scoring against Borussia Dortmund because while I wear the Roma shirt, because it's just because I love the player so much, and it's just great to see him get some monkeys off of his back, you know, and it's just to get him some confidence going, you know, especially like always, he's always the center of criticism, always, no matter whether it's for the national team, whether it's by Laziale, besides actual knowledgeable Laziale or anybody watching Lazio from the outside in, he's always a center point of criticism because he is the number one guy. But you know what, given that kind of role, he still finds way to find success, and especially in a big Champions League game against probably the toughest team in their group. Fantastic showing for him. So for me, that's my story.
Yeah, I think. Well, for me personally, it doesn't. For me, like the Morata, it's fine and dandy. I don't really have an attachment to it. So to Juve, to him. So for me, I was going the Immobile Morata as well. It's just great to see him, smile after a tough week or past couple of weeks. Getting spanked by Samp and then not performing for the national team. A lot of criticism his way. We know he never gives up, and he always comes back again. But to see him score in the Champions League 6 minutes in, I guess like Gianni said, get the monkey off his back. Prove the doubters wrong again. Is big. So for me, I like to see that from Immobile, because like Gianni said, I like him as a player. If the consistency maybe can come in all fronts, obviously that'd be the cherry on top. But we're always with Chiro, and hope nothing for the best for him in the future.
Morata deserves credit too, though.
Absolutely,
Nick,
well, that's what I was going to say. That's what I was going to say.
Yeah.
I like to hear the stories about exes coming back together, and that's what this situation is here. Morata, I was so excited when he came back. I loved him during his time here with Juve between 2014 and 2016. And I was just so happy to see, his first game against Roma, he didn't play so well. He was kind of invisible. He came on as a sub, I believe. And then against Crotone, he really stepped up, got the tying goal, nice pass from Chiesa, and then he hit the post, and then his second goal was later ruled offside, and then he continues. He's just a killer in Champions League. At least when he plays for Juventus, 9 goals in 21 Champions League games, including these 2.
Here is Ramsey. He's laid back, and the shot is kept up, and Morata is going to score the opening goal. Quadrado's cross, and that's a perfect header from Alvaro Morata. His second, and that seals it. And then today, I'm going to make this a bit of a stretch here, because Atalanta was playing Midtjylland. Okay? Midtjylland playing in their first ever Champions League game, just like Atalanta was a year ago. So in a way, you could define it as an X. They were in that position. It's passé. It's the past. It's their X viewpoint. And Atalanta last year, in their first ever Champions League game, they lost 4-0 to Dinamo Zagreb. Midtjylland this time around loses 4-0 to Atalanta. And then Inter, I know this is going to be another stretch here, playing against the son of an ex-Parma in Juventus player, Marcus Thuram, son of Lilium Thuram. So I had to tie this all together, right? But yep. Atalanta,
what
really,
a storyteller, this guy.
Yeah. Really no surprise.
Zapata takes, finds Papu Gomez, has a go! And has a go wonderfully! A Papu Gomez rocket! And that flies to off the boot of Papu Gomez. Sweet and crisp and sumptuous. A special goal by a special player for Atalanta.
A special player indeed, Papu Gomez. Nice goal, second in the game. But for Atalanta, I think, just the fact of what they went through last year, they got the nerves out of the way last year. They went all the way to the quarterfinals, so they're already seasoned vets, quote unquote, coming into this Champions League run, and they really looked like it this time. Coming flying right out of the gates.
I wasn't surprised, to be honest with you. We know Atalanta as an offensive juggernaut. We know they can score. Pretty much everybody contributes on that team. Like you said, Nick, Papu Gomez, what a hit outside the box. Again, this guy has a knack for scoring goals outside the box. Just wonder goals for Ladea. And, in the brutal conditions that it was, pouring rain, they got the job done 4-0, like we said. And I'm just not surprised. I mean, this is, I don't know if you want to label it as seasoned vets in the Champions League. This is only their second time around, but I get what you're saying, and it is a competition that if they continue like this, I think they'll be in this competition for years to come. But it's just, time will tell. I think it's one game at a time with Atalanta. I think they took out everything from the Napoli game onto Midtjylland, however you want to pronounce this team. Today, they totally demolished them after getting spanked by Napoli on the weekend 4-1. So, listen, again, one game at a time with Atalanta. Their stars came out to play today. This is a team that still is waiting for Ilicic to get in there, if I'm not mistaken, or at least into the proper rotation with the squad again. And again, they're already dynamite now. I can only wait and see what they'll be like with him added to the roster.
And I think we need to mention the fact that, speaking on Papu Gomez specifically, the guy's got 5 goals and 5 appearances in all comps so far. Like, he's just aging like fine wine. He's still being super effective, and like now he's finally becoming like a rated player. Like, a lot of people used to underrate him. Now he's becoming even more important. And I feel like Atalanta, because of the experience they had last year, are benefiting by it so much this year. The start is so much better compared to last year, and they look like a more confident team than last season, where it was like, oh my God, like I don't think they're gonna make it. And then next thing you know, they make it on through the last day and then surprise everybody by they lost in a round of 16, or was it quarterfinals they lost in?
Quarterfinals, but they were lucky to even get out of the group.
Exactly.
Like you said, they were on the last match day, and we were biting our nails in Italy. You know, like it was insane, that run. But you're right, Ja.
Inter corner in the last minute of normal time. Flicked on at the near post and in. Lukaku might have got the final touch, but Inter are level. There was a near post flick, and then Lukaku at the back stick deflected it in.
And then Inter, the Lukaku show. I guess you could say a bit of a disappointing result for them, but they did come back. They had that 90th minute goal from Lukaku. No doubt it's the game they should have won at home, but I don't know. It seems like there's something with this Inter team. At least under Conte. I know it's 2 years, but I saw a stat. They've only had 2 wins in 11 games in their last 11 games in the Champions League. I don't know. Maybe at some point it becomes mental. I know they've been facing a lot of COVID cases. But I mean, it is just one game, and there's still 5 more games to go. So it's not like the end of the world for them. And at least they have a lot of squad depth where they could battle this COVID dilemma. You hope so. I mean, last year that was the thing. You know, they had all their eggs in one basket. They didn't really have the depth. Now year 2 under Conte, they bring in some more experienced players, some older players, some players that can fill up that depth roles. And it's been the Lukaku show this past week. Got to go in the derby and got 2 goals today, but they need another killer instinct to finish these games. It can't all be on Lukaku's shoulders. He's a fantastic player, no doubt about it. But if Conte doesn't want to stay on this hot seat, something's gonna have to wake up in Champions League, because Interisti are gonna want at least something this year. Last year they were high hopes with Conte. I think it was a bit too premature, only year 1, but now it's year 2. They want a trophy in the trophy cabinet. So if it's not going to be Champions League, the league, or Coppa Italia, has to be something. And performances like this and, nail-biting games like this, it's not going to get them anywhere. So, again, one game at a time for Inter, and we'll see where it takes them in the future.
See, if I was an Interisti, I wouldn't think that Lukaku by far is not the problem with Inter. The guy's fantastic. He's being that goal scorer that they need, completely getting the value off the purchase off of him. And to be fair, if Inter doesn't make it out of the group stage again in Champions League, I would think maybe, there's a lot of it's Conte. There's no ifs, ands, or buts about it. There's no reason to not succeed with the roster that he has. You guys, they lost in the Europa League finals last year. What was it last? It was an own goal that was the difference maker. If I'm a bit off with my memory today, but
Lukaku own goal.
Yeah, so I mean, even at that, it's bad luck, yes, and you could probably say Inter is probably the recipients of the most bad luck in the past 2 seasons of Italian soccer, but nonetheless, you need to get results with the roster that you have on the field. It's arguably on paper, it's a team that can compete for first place in Serie A, so it should not have any difficult. If logic applies, it shouldn't have issues in other competitions. It should get you results. So, my personal opinion, there's a bit of bad luck on Inter's end, but there's something that's just not functioning from the management side. And if Conte doesn't get any kind of results this year, he's going to be gone. We all say it, but it would be a crime, because this is probably one of the best Inter rosters we've seen in a while. And so far this season has not been effective at all. Has not been. No disrespect to AC winning the Derby this past weekend. They did a fantastic job. But at the end, the last 20 minutes or so, well, we'll get to that later, I guess. But
Yeah.
still, it's just it's sad to see.
Okay, so back to the Serie A now. We just had Serie A match day 4. I was just looking back at some of the scores, and one thing I noticed: the 4 teams who played in the Champions League, none of them won. Atalanta lost 4-1 to Napoli. Lazio lost 3-0 to Samp. Inter lost 2-1 to Milan. And Juve had the quote-unquote best result, 1-1 against Crotone. There's Champions League. There was this week. There's next week. And then there's the week after. They do 3 weeks in a row of European games. And then there's the international break. So I think it's like 3 weeks off. And then they do 3 more weeks in a row of European games. Do you think for those teams, they're going to be thinking about those Champions League games, and it could kind of give teams like maybe the teams in either Europa League where it's not as important, like Napoli and Milan, or even like a team like Sassuolo to pick up points and get some wins with well-rested players?
I'll take it away from here. See, it depends, because you could argue that, okay, maybe those teams lost or drew because mind you, Juve by a hair was offside on the last goal, but we already spoke about that. They're already focused on they're focused on the big competition, which is Champions League. So you could argue that's why they didn't get the results that they wanted. But the smaller teams, yes, they're going to play their best rosters. And in the case of Napoli, maybe they'll play like half of their starting 11 or maybe 3/4 of it. They have the depth that they can use 3/4 of their full potential roster just to get results. But I think in terms of Napoli's case, because I can't speak for Sassuolo, they're going to capitalize as much as they can. They're always going to play their best 11 in Serie A versus these teams because they want to get into those either Europa League spots or if a miracle happens, get into the top 4 if a miracle happens. But for Napoli's case, I think they really want to make an impressive showing in Europa League. I think for Gattuso, for his own credibility, trying to showcase that he's not just a temporary manager, he's one of those managers that can get effective results from his players. I think in Napoli's case, they're gonna still push really hard for Serie A, but they're gonna push as hard for Europa League as well.
I think it's tough. A lot of the upper teams. Maybe not all of them, but you speak of the Juves, you speak of the Inters, even maybe the Atalantas to a stretch. They have this depth now. Lazio, I'm still a bit up in air for me. And when we talk about depth, but yes, it'll be hard for these upper teams there, but it's not unfamiliar territory, right? So for them, I think they know what's at stake. They know they have to get the job done. It's a winning culture for all of these upper teams, right? And that's what they want to do. The teams that are maybe like Nick, you're saying, the Napolis, maybe the Milans, the Romas too, if you want to put them in there, or Sassuolos, and the teams really striving for upper placements. I think they're going to take it just as serious, right? Like Gianni said, Sassuolo, they're going guns blazing no matter who the opponent is. These even lower echelon teams, we saw the Spezias that kind of shocked. Again, against up and down Fiorentina team, but we see the Beneventos who had a bit of a scare on Roma after, but then Roma exploded. So these teams are going to come out to play no matter what. I think the depth on the upper teams, like I said, minus maybe a couple of teams, will come out to play, and I don't know. It's going to be a tough stretch. It's a lot on these players. This is a whole new calendar year that we haven't faced before. This is a whole situation we haven't faced before. It's just going to be how not only will all these competitions, play a factor on rest and health and whatnot, but even these COVID cases that Nick had mentioned earlier on. We got another one today, Hakimi for Inter. So, that's another X factor to see. Yes, we have the depth, but if everybody starts getting hit with COVID, then what? We're bringing up our Primavera players, right? So it's going to be a mess if that starts to happen. But again, we will hope for the best going forward.
There's a lot to talk about. There's Napoli, there's Sassuolo I want to talk about. But you guys quickly brought it up. You mentioned Conte on the hot seat, and we're almost in November, and the Serie A is the place where coaches go to get fired, right? and November's November is coach's season when they start with these firings. Do you think I know obviously the season started a bit later this year and it's only 4 match days in, but is there any coach you guys already see that's on the hot seat besides Conte? But he's pretty much been on the hot seat apparently in Inter since the day he started. Because I definitely have a coach in mind, and it's your former Milan coach Adreano, Marco Giampaolo, with Torino. He's just I don't think
I told you
he's not going to last too long. I
don't think so.
If he's still Torino's coach by Christmas, I'm going to be shocked. If he's fired by Halloween, I'm going to be shocked too. I think they're going to give him at least till the international break. But Torino, 0 wins in 0 losses in 3 games, 4 goals scored, 8 against. You got to feel for Belotti and Sirigu, but the whole team is just a mess. And Giampaolo is not the guy. Who is? I have no clue. Maybe they're gonna bring in like Sadi or Allegri to go spend some big bucks or something.
Yeah. Joe, what do you think? I have 2 in mind, but I want to hear what Johnny wants to say.
Nicholas said it perfectly. Like the only one I had in mind is Giampaolo, because that's the only team that, looking at just the current standings, is kind of like, okay, they shouldn't be where they shouldn't be. Like you could argue that even Lazio, but the problem is that Inzaghi has gotten results for them, so it's not like as if he hasn't done anything for the team. So for them, in their eyes, they're like, okay, well, for now it's just like, okay, a bit of a question mark, but there's no way in my mind do I see any reason of Inzaghi getting fired. So
yeah,
I can't disagree with Nicholas's decision, because out of the bottom 5, let's say, just to have some fun with it, Torino's really the biggest surprise in terms of the bottom 5 teams compared to the rest.
Yeah, I think when on our previous show, I had said Giampaolo is going to be the first one out in terms of coaching being sacked, but and it wouldn't surprise me one bit after his short stint at Milan. But for me, if you even want to call it a stint, for me, I wanted also. I know you see a lot on social media now. It gets a bit crazy, but 2 coaches that I don't know, maybe not the best of results to start off the year. Fonseca for Roma and Iachini for Fiorentina. Now you always see Iachini out, Fonseca out, Iachini in, Fonseca in. You don't know what to believe, but I wouldn't be surprised if one of those teams shake up some things. I don't know how Friedkin wants to roll the dice with Fonseca. I personally have no problem with Fonseca. I think. Yes, maybe it's not rolling like they would like to right off the bat this season, but I still, he surprised me a bit last year, coming into a new league and doing decently well. Iachini, apparently they still don't think he's the man for the job at Fiorentina. They're thinking about Sadi coming and going back to foreign. Sorry. So those are 2 other names I wanted to just put out there. I don't know if they're really on the hot seat or not, but. If you read or look in social media, there's some parts of the fan bases that want them out right away, and some of them want to keep hold of them. So 2 more names to toss up in the air.
I mean, to quote, just on the Roma part, just to reply to that, to quote the podcast Chiesa de Totti, they brought up a really good point about Fonseca that I didn't know about until listening to them. Basically, the reason why Roma wanted to move Dzeko this year is because Fonseca's system does not suit Dzeko. And it's not his style of play, and there wasn't anything disrespectful. It's like, well, we just hired Fonseca, so obviously we're going to try to adapt to his coaching style. And then when Dzeko didn't move this year, they're like, well, okay, we're stuck with him. Let's make the best of it. So, and they got some solid results. The Benevento game started off pretty shaky, but obviously they got the result that they needed. Juve to tie was fantastic, and you got to give props to Juve. It's like, you have Ronaldo. You're obviously not going to be able to. We have an army. You have a Ronaldo. It's type of thing. It's like. Superstars are going to be superstars. So far Fonseca this season, he has been doing okay. Like I don't think that Friedkin's going to do any drastic measures just yet on his possible spot. I think they're actually going to let him ride out the entire year, because then afterwards you're just going to shake up everything and it's going to cause a lot of confusion, and Roma's just going to be stuck in this continuous spiral. They want to see, okay, let's settle in Fonseca. Let's see what he can bring to the table with the roster that we've given him some players to help work around some holes that the team has. Not completely, but they got a center back. They got a young center back that they needed. They got a young striker that they needed to replace Dzeko in the last 20-30 minutes in Mayoral. And hopefully, in my eyes, if he actually pans out at the end of the loan, they actually exercise the option to buy him. Yes, they moved out a lot of wingers, but there was a lot of extra clutter that they needed to clear up. They've done okay moves. They haven't done anything bad. They haven't done anything amazing, but they still answered some solid things. So, in my personal opinion, Fonseca, out of the two that you mentioned, from a Romanista point of view, Fonseca should be okay till season's end. Unless something drastic where Roma loses 10 in a row or something, then I don't see him leaving at all this season.
So we'll have Rui Dos Santos on a couple minutes. We'll talk about the derby. Adreano, we didn't forget about Milan. We're doing this on purpose. We're gonna have a bunch of Milan talk right now, but the derby is the talk of the week. But there are some other teams we want to talk about, and that's why we have our MVP segment. I guess we'll do our normal thing, and then I'll start. Sorry, I have something stuck in my throat. But I'm gonna have to go with Tommaso Augello from Samp. I saw comments on social media that he was playing like Maldini against Lazio, a goal and an assist in Samp's 3-0 win. Quagliarella was on the end of one of those goals. He has 3 goals in 4 games now. So slowly he's picking up some form, but my MVP's got to go to Augello.
Nearly reached Tonelli, that's Augello! What a finish that is! What a game he's having! An assist for the first goal, and the scorer for the second.
I would have given it to Morata if he wasn't offside, by the way. You guys, who are your MVPs?
And also, quick shout out to Quagliarella, 200th appearance for Sampdoria. Again, this guy, like Gianni said earlier about Papu Gomez, these players age like fine wine. But for me, it was going to be the obvious. I knew the obvious thing was going to be Ibra for me, but I wasn't going to go there this week. Another guy I was thinking about Simeone for Cagliari, got 2 goals. I was thinking about maybe one of the tandem there, Berardi or Caputo. Just a quick stat about them before I get to my actual MVP. In the post-lockdown, this is posted by Opta Paolo, the great Opta Paolo on Twitter. In the post-lockdown, Sassuolo's Francesco Caputo and Domenico Berardi, 14 goals and assists, so 8 goals, 6 assists, are the 2 Italians that have been involved in the most goals in Serie A. So they've been a dynamic duo this year. But for me, I'm going for Gianni's team's boy, I guess. I don't know now. Lozano. Hell of a game, against a good Atalanta team. And I just like the story that, I don't know if it's the story or just the headline of Gattuso sticking with it, sticking with him and, had a bit of hardship with him at the beginning. Lozano coming to a new league, not knowing the language very much. Now we're hearing that he's learning Italian. Gattuso, pretty strict on that and getting him on board and, what it takes to fight for the shirt that you play for. And Lozano has slowly, been becoming one of these players that can do damage in Serie A. So against a good Atalanta team this week, for me, Lozano gets my MVP.
Oh, it's beautifully done. Vintage Napoli, this! Hirving Lozano gives Napoli the lead.
Gianni?
Well, I wanted to mention Lozano, but I didn't want to go with a homer pick. And props to Ibrahimovic for pretty much carrying the entire not the entire Milan roster, but carrying the derby on his back. But one player that we've given a lot of flack, huh?
Yeah, no, he put Milano on his back. Never mind.
But one player that we've given a lot of flack to last season, and you could argue the season before, but now I want to give him some credit, is Belotti. He had a chance at a hat trick, but he got the brace. He gave Torino's best chance to try to win, but Sirigu kind of, I guess, it wasn't his best game, or or else, they could have at least gotten a point from it. But, you know what, this was a game that Belotti looked like his former self. Or what was the season? They had there was one season he got 20 goals? What was it, 22? It was some ridiculous.
It was a couple years ago. He had
yeah.
That was the year where he was going for 100 million, and they didn't pull the trigger on that. So.
And ADL had that quote. Well, if Belotti is 100 million and Lasagna is about 100 million as well, type of thing. But he was showing his old form, which was fantastic to see, and we want to see that, especially for national team. We like to see our strikers, which has been our most questionable position, succeed and try to find some confidence back. So I'll give him my MVP of the week.
And,
can we get Osimhen, the Italian citizenship? Can we get him to attach to be the top goal scorer or the top man for us? Man, holy crap! What a guy, man! I just came to mind now. You're talking about head strikers. Osimhen, first goal in Serie A.
Special shout out to the two Nigerians, Osimhen and Sini, after they scored the goal and with holding shirts and police brutality in Nigeria. I was watching the Napoli game. I saw Osimhen holding a shirt, but the camera cut away and I didn't really get to see it properly. And then after Simi scored against Juventus, they did more of a close up on the shirt, and I connected the two Nigerian players both holding shirts. They were the same message. So great on their part. Cards. I'm going to give my card to, I'm going to stay in Crotone. I don't know if you guys saw it all, but 1,000 fans in a stadium that holds 18,000, because that's how it is in Italy. They just limit 1,000 instead of, a percentage of the stadium. So you got a stadium of 18,000, you got 1,000 fans, and they put all 1,000 fans on the same side of the stadium, and it was packed. It was packed. It completely defeats the purpose of only having 1,000 fans in the stadium. I understand they were wearing masks and there was a bit of distancing, but it looked like it was just normal times. And then even worse was in Kiev yesterday. With between Dinamo and Juve, like COVID doesn't exist there. It was almost as if it was from 2019. Some people not even wearing their mask. It's just at that point, obviously the players are safe from the fans, but you got to be careful of the fans, right? You don't want someone to harm themselves, harm someone else at their own home because they went to go enjoy a soccer game. You want these events to be safe. So for me, that's got to be
fans among the fans.
Yeah, exactly. That's got to be a yellow card.
It's a late challenge, surely maybe the first yellow of the match.
Adri?
Yeah, so for me, when we spoke about we spoke a bit about Lazio Samp there. For me, a yellow card to Lazio's performance. Just the fact that you got 10 shots on goal, 0 on target. You have the reigning capocannoniere Scarpa d'Oro on your team winning the line, Ciro Immobile. Other players who can create sparks and can cause damage for a team like Samp that has been up and down these past seasons. It's just for me unacceptable, and that brings me back to the point where sometimes I have a question mark about Lazio. You want them to do well, you want them to continue form from last season, but there's got to be results that are convincing, especially teams like this. To place yourself in the conversation, for top four, for Scudetto, things like that. Obviously, they had a great performance in the Champions League, which was good to see. But the game against Samp, not getting a shot on target from the sources I saw, up for me unacceptable. Especially who you have on your starting 11. We say it all the time. There's top 11 can match with any top 11 in Serie A and maybe even Europe. So for me, unacceptable. Lazio yellow card.
This is definitely going to be another yellow.
Giannini.
Well, I wanted to choose between one out of two, but I think the second one, which was Sirigu, I think I'm going to give him a bit of a pass. Yeah, he had a bit of a bad game, but he has solid games in the past, so I'll give him a pass for that. But Fiorentina giving up a 2-0 lead, an early 2-0 lead to Spezia. Especially it's a team that you shouldn't be drawing to, especially it's their first ever campaign in Serie A. It's the roster that you field is not a terrible roster either. It's a great roster, and there's a lot of top end players, top end Serie A players You can even call some of them that used to be former world class, like Ribéry, on the team too. So it's not a team that you should get a draw from, especially when you get that early 2-0 lead. So for me, Fiorentina is getting my yellow card of the week.
And he now sees a flash of yellow before his eyes.
So coming up, Rui Dos Santos to talk about Milan and the derby.
Inter corner in the last minute of normal time. Flicked on, and here comes it in! Rafael Leao. And look at that, it's an easy one for Ibrahimovic! It's 2!
Welcome back to the Calcio guys. Joining us now all the way from Rhode Island, Rui Dos Santos from the Red Card Report podcast. Rui, how's it going?
Fantastic, guys. Thank you for having me on. I've been a big fan of your show for the last year and a half that I've been following or so. But, yeah, man, looking forward to talking some Calcio with you guys.
We appreciate
Respect,
that.
brother. We appreciate it. Yeah.
Thank you very much.
And so obviously the big talk of the week is Milan. And before we get into the details of the game, we want to know, as we normally do with our guests, how did you become a Milan fan?
Yeah, so that's been a question that I've always been asked because I'm not Italian. But my father's sister, my aunt, married a Neapolitan from Italy. And he was a Milanista since he was a young kid. His first jersey was a Milan kit. I know it's very strange all the way down in Napoli, finding a Milan kit back in the day. And so he carried with Milan throughout his entire life. And as I was growing up, I was always a Porto fan. I still am. And as I was getting older, he started introducing me to Milan at his Neapolitan club. They would always show the games there, and the Champions League, I would watch it after school and everything. So I started falling in love with Milan in, I would say, about 2004, 2005. And ever since then, I just been hooked with them and been riding with them ever since.
Yeah, so it's been quite a bumpy road, this past decade for Milan. But these derby wins have been hard to come by in these past years. Obviously, we got the win this weekend, 2-1 against Inter. Last time in the Serie A, I believe it was 2016. So, Rui, we just wanted to know what were your thoughts about the match, about maybe some individual performances. How do you think the team came together against the tough opponent in Inter?
Yeah, as you mentioned, over the last 10 years or so, Inter have really been our bogey team. Even when they were in their own Banta era, they've been getting the best of us. And it was just great to get back at them, get this crucial win, maintain on top of the table, and try to push forward into the season and get into the top four. And we needed to get points from games like these. And, it was a great performance from us. It really exceeded my expectations. I predicted us only getting a draw, and we ended up pulling through. Inter came with their guns loaded as well, even with their injuries, and we were able to hang on. We saw from the last derby match, we went up 2-0 early going into halftime, and all that fell apart. And if there's like one word, and I mentioned on my previous podcast that could epitomize our performance against Inter on Saturday, is growth. And we've seen how much this team has come along over the last few months. Just how we fell apart in the first derby, but we were able to hold on and just keep the lead that we had, and we didn't fall apart. Even after taking the 2-0 lead, we still maintained control of ourselves. We didn't fall apart too quickly. Even when Lukaku put one back, we were able to just play it with our, maintain our objective and with our strategy and our approach, and we never let it slip. And we fought hard to the end.
I was thinking about that while I was watching the game, and I think a lot of people were. The 2-0 lead, exactly how it was in February. How much do you think that crept into Milan's minds?
Yeah, that was the first thing that came to my mind. Once we got the second goal, I was super excited, obviously, because we have a 2-0 lead. It's a great lead to have, but it's also a very tricky one because that third decisive goal is decisive, and that can change the trajectory of matches. If Milan went up 3-0, it's almost a guaranteed victory. Now, if Inter, as they did, pulled one back, it really just changes the course of the game. And the way Milan responded after Inter pulled one back, it was just incredible. I think we learned a lot. We've played together as a unit together, throughout the last few months. I think the chemistry has grown. We've matured a lot, and that learning experience from the last derby carried with us, and I think we responded well and we learned from it. And that's just another step in the right direction for us to get to where we want to be.
Yeah, I like your point. I like your point when you say growth, because that is the perfect description for Milan, because they just compared, if you take them now compared to 2 years ago, them being like in a big murky water situation, and now there's some clarity to it. There's a direction to the team, and that relates to a question from our friends from Genoa CFC Canada. What's Milan's potential this year? What do you see them doing this year? Now they have some kind of direction.
Yeah, I think top four is definitely the main objective. I know Ibrahimovic, I love him. I love his winning mentality, and I think it's very infectious. I think a lot of the players on the team have picked up on it, but I just don't think it's really realistic that we're going to win the Scudetto. But I think top four, the way we've been playing the last several months, the win against Juventus back in June and the win this past weekend against Inter, it just shows that we're able to stand up against the best teams and get victories and play well against the top quality clubs. So we just need to keep hanging on and against the bigger teams, but most importantly, pick up wins against the smaller teams where in the past we tended to squander those games. So my expectations is definitely top four.
Yeah, top four. We need top four, I think, Rui. And, we say it every year. There's always a different project. But, finally, I think we've come out into a project that we can actually get behind and believe in, obviously, with Maldini and the upper management, down to Pioli, down to a guy like Zlatan that we've mentioned, so many times on our podcast. And pretty much everybody will probably talk about. But want to hear your opinion on Zlatan. How much of his, like you said, infectious, mentality and volia and wanting to win is going with this young team, because we are a young team, but minus Ibra. What do you make of him being back at Milan? His characteristics on and off the pitch, and how has his team grown under him and Pioli and this season?
Yeah, him coming back is the best thing that's happened to this club in a long time, because throughout the years, even when we came up short by 1 point to make it to the Champions League, we had the opportunity to have Ibrahimovic that January, and we didn't have it. And there was that period, that season, where in the beginning of the second half in January and February, we were playing well up until the Derby. We lost that year. We went on a stretch of games where we couldn't get out of that funk, that struggling period of games where we were just not getting the results that we wanted. And I think Ibrahimovic's mentality, having a leader like him, and also the quality of the player that he is on the pitch makes a huge difference. And, just the mentality he has, it's, as I said, it's infectious. And I think all the players in the locker room are learning from him. I think they're starting to understand what a winning mentality is and how they should approach the game, how they should approach practice, and how they should take practice as serious as he does. And Pioli hit it out of the park earlier this year when I think it was after the return of from the lockdown, where he was just praising Ibrahimovic, saying that he is a phenomenal leader, and all the players around him at practice are afraid of making mistakes. And that's a good thing to have, because the players they become accustomed and they build this habit of not making these mistakes at practice. So when it comes to the game time, they're ready to do their job and do their job effectively.
Perfectly said. I agree 100% about the Ibrahimovic comment. you get a guy with his mindset involved and just his presence, his character, everything. It was the perfect solution for Milan, especially that he is a former Milan. And you could argue now he's probably you're going to go down in the Milan history books as one of their legends of all time. I would say so. I mean, like I wouldn't disagree or argue against it. Like in my eyes, even though he's played in a lot of teams, he's a Milan legend. But just for some fun comments here, we got a question from our friend Azuri fan Phil, who asks, "What will you make your co-host Joey Cap do when Milan beat Juve this season?" First of all, Nicholas, I don't know how you feel about that question, but Rui, what do you think about that?
Oh man, Joe. That win this past year was incredible, and Joe hasn't heard the end of it from me. I had to give it to him because just like Inter, they've been our bogey team as well for such a long time. Oh man, Phil always cracks me up, but I don't know. With Joe, it's he's I don't know how to put this. He's like a punching bag. So whenever opportunity, his team is obviously, Nick, your team has always been the dominant force, obviously the last 9 seasons. And whenever I can get an opportunity to get at Joe, I just do it. It doesn't matter what it's about. So for Milan, if we beat them this year, I'm just going to I might go down to Philadelphia again and celebrate it with Phil.
There you go.
By the way, Milan Juventus, it's later in the calendar, January 6th, so they don't play till 2021. Another question, this actually coming from Joe. He asked, and by the way, this was on our Instagram stories. So between Joe and Phil, they didn't know they each asked this question. Okay, Joe asked, why is your co-host Joe Cappuccino so awesome?
This is a shameless plug time for Joe here.
Oh man, to be honest, Joe, I can't picture doing a podcast with anyone else. Really, he's been a great co-host. He's a great moderator. He controls the tempo of our show, and he's a great guy to do it. So Joe, you're lucky I'm talking highly of you right now. Just the only problem that I have with Joe, he would be the greatest podcast host there is if he wasn't obsessed with pineapple pizza. It's just
we got to get him off of that.
Yeah, even he goes to a Neapolitan pizza place and they don't even have pineapple, but he asks anyway. So
it's a big X for me, Joe. I'm sorry, brother.
It's not that bad of a pizza. I'm not a big fan of it, but I don't mind it.
How do you mute individual people on Skype?
If there's a traditional like American or a Canadian style pizza and you throw some pineapple on it, it's like, it's whatever. But when it comes to like Roman and Neapolitan pizza, you don't put pineapple on that. You just don't do it.
You said it right, Rui. You said it right. And coming from a Neapolitan with Neapolitan roots, shame on you, Gianni. Shame on you. Big X for me.
It's not bad. If it's American style, first of all, I think pineapple on pizza was a Canadian Greek man who did it or something like that. From what I heard once.
I don't care who did.
The great point is, it's not that bad of a taste. It's not that. If it's actual authentic Italian pizza, obviously pineapple does not deserve to be on it. If it's just a standard like fast food greasy kind of pizza, then obviously I'm okay with pineapple on it. But you can't beat a very classic margherita pizza. That's more sauce than cheese, for example. Like if there's more cheese and sauce, and it's not good.
Every week we go further into these Cucina guys' ideas. I'm telling you, man. But Rui, I want to ask another question. We got another social media question from a good friend Joseph from Calcio Fan Blogs. This one's a good one. Obviously, you said you didn't have the Italian roots, but you do have the Portuguese roots, if I'm not mistaken. So he asked, which former Serie A player do you prefer, Luis Figo or Rui Costa? I think it's an easy answer, but we want to hear what you have to say about that.
Yeah, Il Maestro, man. Il Maestro. I obviously Luis Figo had a lot of accolades, a lot of Serie A titles when he was there, but I think he was a little bit past his prime when he joined Inter. He still was very good, But I think if you want to just measure from Serie A, it's definitely Rui Costa. Even just prior to Milan, his career at Fiorentina, him and Batistuta, one of the best duos I've ever seen in Serie A. I was very young at the time when he was at Fiorentina, and he was incredible. And a lot of people, I live in a very well, not in a Portuguese community, but the towns around me, there are a lot of Portuguese in them. And they loved following Fiorentina, and then they ended up following AC Milan because of Rui Costa, and they would always brag about how great he was at Fiorentina. And when you look at his highlight reel over there at Fiorentina, was incredible, and also with Milan. So when it comes to Serie A, it's definitely Rui Costa, but I think overall as a player, it's definitely Luis Figo.
So speaking about Portugal, you as the Portuguese, and the fact that you follow so much Italian soccer, we just had the international break last week. Right now, if Italy and Portugal were to play each other, which side do you think would win? A, which side do you think would win? And B, which side do you think has the better future and has the better chance at going further in Euro 2021?
Yeah, I think right now Portugal have a really talented team. They're right in the prime of their golden generation. They have countless They have countless players right now that are just really on the rise, and it's just a shame that Cristiano Ronaldo never really had these young players when he was in his prime, because when he was just so young, obviously Portugal was at the end of their last golden generation, and now at the end of his prime, the new golden generation is on the rise. So, but I think even without Cristiano Ronaldo, they're still a very good team. They've managed to find a way to play without him, because over the years when Ronaldo was in his prime, they always relied on him to get the job done. So I think if they were to play Italy right now, I think Portugal would win. I think in the next year, I think Portugal is going to be one of the favorites. And I think Italy, the way they were playing about a year ago, was phenomenal football. They were pouring in goals like we've never seen an Italian team do. If they're able to get back on track and get back into that form, I think Italy is going to be also up there with Portugal as one of the favorites for the Euro. So, but yeah, I think Portugal would have the advantage 1-on-1. I'm being a little biased, and then for the tournament, I'm gonna go with Portugal.
We'll let it slide just this once, Roy. We'll let it slide just this once.
What is what?
Well, I said we'll let this slide just this once. Portugal beating Italy, but because we're Italy or nothing. So, but we'll let it slide just this once. Yeah.
So we have another final question. Well, not the final question, but like a semi-final question from Pizza Calcio, our friends over there. After the games are played, well, it's mostly for us, but I think probably we'll get your feelings on it too. Because we all had our own idea of what the standings were going to be like at the end of the season, but obviously the season hasn't started as to how anybody expected it. Does any of our top four change, or do we still have kind of like the same idea on how the season's going to play out?
Well, the top four, as in,
well, just for Serie A, for example. I think that's what he means. Yeah.
Who was his top four?
Well, no, like it was not our top four. It was basically for our top four. It's because right now the season so far hasn't really started as what we expected it to start off as.
Yeah.
And we obviously, before the season started, I'm pretty sure everybody made predictions on who they think the top four is going to look like. Yeah, exactly, obviously, right now, it's not looking as what we expected.
Right.
But it's still early on. So have you changed your mentality on what it's probably going to look like, or do you think it's still going to be the same?
Yeah, I think this is going to be a tough year to project, especially the third and fourth place seeds. I think the first two seeds are going to be Juventus and Inter. That's how I chose them. And then I had Napoli finishing in third. A lot of people ruled them out. And I thought that was I think that was a little cheap, because I think Napoli still have that quality team. They have the third, maybe even the second most talented roster, but they have all that experience from the years that they've been so successful in the league. Now it comes down to this fourth place spot where you have Milan, who are in great form, great shape. Obviously, we've seen it in the last 15, 16 games or whatever it is. Then you have Atalanta, who have just been on fire the last 18 months. You have Roma, who can be up and down. You just even though they're not known as this, but they can be Pazza Roma. They just you just never know what you're gonna get from them. I feel like that's what Roma has been the last few seasons. You just never really know. But you have them and Lazio. They were great last season, and you're going into this season. It was a huge question mark on how they were going to continue with their form from last year. And right now, it doesn't look so good for them. I had Milan finishing fourth, somehow beating out Atalanta. I projected Atalanta to break down some point this year, but we're going to have to see. But I'm going to stick with my top four. But from third place all the way to sixth, it's going to be very competitive. There's just that pool of teams right there that it can really be anyone's game. So that's why I was alluding to earlier that it's great that we get these wins or these points against the bigger clubs, but the smaller teams is where we need to rack up these points for sure, guaranteed points.
Absolutely, especially with Milan, they have a knack for losing points against lower opposition, right? So we don't want to remember the Beneventos from a couple of seasons past, right?
Wow.
So I would probably agree. Sticking to my guns for the top four, I think, like we all know, that middle of the pack, race for Champions League into the Europa League spots are going to be tough. It's going to be very competitive, like Rui mentioned. I think I'm going to stick. I mean, listen, I don't want Juve to win their 10th in a row, but if it happens, it happens. I think Inter and Atalanta, my 2 and 3, I think can flip-flop, but I think I'll still stick to what I had with Inter in second, Atalanta third. I'm with Rui on this one, my Milan brother, finishing fourth. They need Champions League. I think this is, again, like I said, finally could wrap your head around this project that can do something, and I hope it's this year to get into Champions League. And again, I think the Roman teams are going to be flip-flopping too, and Napoli will be another team that can possibly flip-flop from Europa into Champions League. So, like we all know, Serie A is very unpredictable, especially with these smaller teams, especially with the races for Europe. So, it'll be an exciting league to watch from start to finish.
I guess we'll answer that question too. I forgot. I honestly,
I was like,
I'm trying to remember who my top four was. Besides,
I know.
Besides Juventus, we wrote it down and I have it in our group chat, but I forget. But honestly, I think I had Milan in my top four, so I'm not going to back out of that one. Juventus as champion, it's still too early to tell. I'm obviously not going to back out of that one. So I think 4 games in, it's too early. Let's talk. Let's talk after the first round of all 19 match days. Gianni.
Mm-hmm. I mean, Napoli's been a big surprise for me. I put them fifth because I'm like, okay, they still have the roster to get into the top 6, but I don't have to crack the top 4 because Osimhen, I had no idea how impactful he was going to. I don't think anybody had an idea how impactful he was going to be. And he is that, I don't know what it is. I don't know how, I can't explain it. He's just added an amazing X factor to that offense in Napoli. Like he's an extra threat. And now the problem is it's like they give defense fits because it's like we either got to cover Mertens, we got to cover Insigne when he's healthy, but right now obviously not. But like then there's Osimhen, and then Lozano now has stepped up. It's crazy. And then you got Patania coming off the bench. Like if anything, like a lot of question marks that Napoli had have been answered. So that's why, like, maybe that's the only team I could see myself probably changing my mindset on where they're going to probably end up. That maybe they will finish in the top 4. But I still, like, I think of mine was Inter first, Juve second, and Atalanta third. And I think I put Milan as fourth. Or Lazio as fourth. No.
I found it, by the way.
Okay.
You had Inter, Juve, Lazio, Atalanta.
There you go.
Adriano had Juve, Inter, Atalanta, Milan. I actually had Milan 5, so maybe I'll switch it up and say they'll 4 an early change around. But Rui, tomorrow Milan plays Celtic in the Europa League. We don't want to go too much detail into that actual game because the podcast will be published tomorrow morning. But more for the Europa League expectations. What do you expect from Milan this season?
They have to get out of this group. They have to. And going into the season, I may have been a little biased picking Milan at fourth, but I was getting to the point where I think we should probably invest our time into the Europa League and try to win it and just get into the Champions League that way, because the way that Lazio were going last year, Atalanta, Inter, Juventus, the fourth place team finished with 78 points. That's a lot of points to finish at the end of the season. And the big question mark is, can Milan do that in the league this year, or replicate it, or at least hope for one of those teams to finish with less points than that? So I think they have to go as far as they can. I would love to see them win it. We've never won that trophy before, but yeah, it would be absolutely embarrassing, like a couple of years ago when we weren't able to get out of the group stage. And this is a group stage where we should get out of. I don't care how many trophies Celtic have won in the last 4 or 5 years. They say it's 10 trophies, but that's in Scotland. And the only team that really couldn't give us a problem is Lille, and they've been in fantastic form the last 2 seasons. This year, they're projected to give PSG a run for the title, believe it or not. And they don't have Nicolas Pepe, they don't have Osimhen, they don't have Rafael Leão anymore, and they're still able to funnel in great talents. So we're gonna have to see. I'm hopeful that we will get out of the group stage, but tomorrow we should definitely walk through Celtic. If we are the team that we say we are, and the way that everyone is talking about us, we have to go in there and win it.
Lille, by the way, Canadian striker Jonathan David, he's going to be the next big thing for them.
Let's hope he doesn't do anything tomorrow, but yeah. No, Rui, I absolutely agree. I think it is now, like you're saying, for Milan. All this talk is useless if they can't deliver on the pitch, right? So, we need these performances to come our way. So, just one more quick question before we let you go, Rui. Seeing all the changes at Milan, you spoke about Ibra coming back, some new additions. Who has been the player, maybe the biggest surprise for you, in this Milan squad? I don't know if it's a new addition player or a player that has already been in the squad for now these couple of seasons. But who would you say has been a bright spot and maybe kind of coming out in their own so far this season?
This season, it's definitely Davide Calabria, in my opinion. He's not the best player, but I think he's turned around a lot. I think this season, against Inter, we scored on the counterattack the second goal because he won 2 consecutive tackles on Perisic, which led to a counterattack and it led to Leão crossing the ball to Ibrahimovic and putting that second goal away. I thought he had a solid performance against Inter, and he's had solid performances all year long. And this is what we've been waiting for our right back position going into this season. I thought the right back was the big question mark, the bogey position. And I love the competition that we're going to have in that position with Diogo Dalot from Manchester United. I know he's going to be fighting to get some playing time on the pitch, and he's going to have to work hard to beat out Calabria the way that he's been playing. So I think Calabria has been the biggest improvement in my opinion for the starting 11. And one quick player is Simon Kjær. What more can you ask from that guy? He's been sensational for us. It's like he's playing in top form ever since he joined Serie A, and he stepped up when Romagnoli was down and injured, and he's been leading the back line perfectly. I couldn't ask for more from him.
Absolutely a true warrior on the pitch, and a guy that brings experience, like we said about Ibra. These on the pitch and off the pitch. I think these types of players with the young squad that we have. Just pays dividends, right? And it's just so important for these young players to continue to grow, to get that mindset, like you mentioned earlier, and to continue to fight for the shirt that we love, right? So, absolutely. I was a bit surprised about the Calabria, to be honest with you, but he did give a special finger that we saw apparently during that match. I didn't catch that live, but kudos to him, I guess. But I was shocked about that, to be honest with you.
No,
But,
it's not that he's the best player or anything like that. I think it's the one that surprised me the most this season. I mean, there's been so many turnarounds among individual players like Hakan, Kessié. Obviously, Benacer has been great since he signed with us. So many other players. But I think Calabria is really the one where I couldn't stand him at the end of last year, and then this year I'm like very, very impressed, and I'm really happy the way he's been playing. He's still got a lot of work to do, but I given the expectations going into this season from him, it's good for me.
No, absolutely. I think you nailed it on the head. And Rui, again, from the three of us, I think that's all we have for you for this evening. You've been a fine guest, first time on the pod. We can't thank you enough for taking the time out of your day, your night, to come speak to us here on the Calcio Guys. If anybody's living under a rock and haven't listened to your guys' podcast, where can we find you guys on social media, yourself personally, and maybe even Joe, if we want to shout out Joe one more time? Where can we find you on social media?
I don't remember Joe's Twitter handle, but just type in Joe Cappuccino. Joe Cappuccino.
Excellent.
And then you can throw the word pineapple next, so you'll find some tweets about it. But you can find me on Twitter at Ruizinho92 and our podcast page RCR_podcast.
Very good. Very short and sweet. Rui, again, we thank you very, very much. Where to find us, guys, just like every week, at the Calcio Guys on Instagram, Twitter, and Facebook as well. Catch our podcast on all your favorite podcasting platforms, and we'll be back next week to talk more Calcio.
Thanks for listening.
Ciao.
Thank you for having me on.
Bye.
The Calcio Guys is a weekly podcast by Adreano Donardo, Gianni Dellacoli, and myself, Nicholas Di Giovanni. We want to bring Calcio back to its roots in our communities and share stories from around the world about why we're passionate about the beautiful game. You can listen to us anywhere where you listen to your podcasts, including Spreaker, Google Podcasts, iTunes, Spotify, iHeart Radio, and Mixcloud. Give us your opinion on social media at The Calcio Guys on Twitter, Instagram, Facebook, and YouTube. The outro song is The Last Ones by Jazar.